Citizen FM. Based in Nigeria's capital.
Your number one radio station.
Definitely, it's all right. Your number one station in the Federal Capital Territory. This is Citizen FM at 93.7, reaching you from the center of the city here in Abuja. My name is Ernest. Thanks for joining us. Check your time. 7 minutes past the hour, 3 p.m. This is very hot afternoon. It's a day, of course, in March 2023. How are you doing? Are you in the sun or wherever? I hope whatever it is you're doing is the hand of the Almighty is on it to bring success to you. Well, you know how it is. At this time every day, we come here to look at issues concerning our country, and we call the program Politics Now, and we've welcomed your participation over time, and we really appreciate you for joining us. Those of you who create time to listen, get involved, contribute, and of course redirect as we do our own share into nation building from this end. I want to thank you so much. Today is the same as usual. We're going to be looking at issues concerning our country, and as you know, what we shall be doing from now is we have a president-elect in place. There's been challenges in our country in the last few years, and so many of us are groaning. We are still groaning even. The Naira crunch, fuel scarcity, kidnappings, and so many, all those things, but we can't keep looking at the negative side all the time. There's a time will come, and you have to look up with hope and anticipation into the future and begin to look, what does the future hold? I remember some years ago, some people said that Nigeria will break up in 2015. Here we are, 2023, and we are still one indivisible nation, and that is worth celebrating. I remember too, just a few months ago, some people said some people want to take over Abuja, kill everybody. It never happened. So we thank God for His mercy, for His grace, keeping us here. And so today, we shall be looking at the issues in terms of setting agenda for the incoming new government. We've complained here yesterday. We also looked at certain issues related to that. We want to look at what do we need to do? What does the new leader need to do? For so many years in our country, we sit back and watch our leaders do what they want to do. From all indications, especially with the results of the last election showing that people are really angry. When we check all the votes, we saw how the youth came out to vote and express themselves one way or the other. And I'm very happy to have heard the President-elect saying, I hear you loud and clear. And so I have a youth in the studio with me today. Let's hear from him. If you want to set agenda for the President-elect, how do you want it to go? It's my pleasure to have in the studio my very good friend, Paul Obi. He's a media scholar. He's as well a journalist. Paul, you're welcome to the studios of Citizen FM.
Thank you, Citizens FM. Thank you, Nigerians. Thank you, everybody. It's nice to be back.
Okay, I'm very glad to see you, Paul. And you keep abreast of what is going on all the time by the nature of your work and the things you do. Tell me, when you look at the firmament, you look forward into Nigeria, looking maybe towards the end of this year, from now to the end of the year, next year, and the following one. What are those areas? Looking back now at the challenges we have faced in our country in recent times, what are those factors that have really bothered you, where you think that when a new government is sworn in a few weeks' time, let's not call it months, what are those things you believe the first steps to take to bring down tension in the country and to ensure that even development will take place as we look ahead?
Whatever we discuss with regards to the incoming administration, we have to take cognizance of the pending cases in court. That is aside. But if you want to be serious with Nigeria, Nigeria is ailing. Nigeria is ailing from all phases of life, of all phases of endeavors. In all indicators of development indices, Nigeria is not performing well. But if we want to trust upon some mandate in terms of the incoming administration.
That's right, to set agenda.
Set the template upon which they will flow, where there will be a flow of activities or decision-making processes. we have to look at two things. Okay. One, the currency aspect, the currency redesign. It was very chaotic. It has been problematic to the people. It has squeezed the citizens. And I would want to say there's a level that, you want to put it right. It has increased the poverty level of the people. If you want to check, do some discrete investigation. Then also security. These two aspects, the currency aspect, the insecurity. These are two things that a very serious-minded administration, incoming administration, will look into address. But on the long run, if you say, I want to look at them, Nigeria have challenges. Until the center is over-concentrated, the center is like a devouring lion. A devouring lion looking for always devouring the regions, devouring the state. Until we are ready to decentralize power, okay, Nigeria will never go anywhere. Until the states have some level of independence from the federal government, Nigeria will never progress in any indices you want to talk about development. The first thing that this administration must consider, anyone that comes into power, if Asiwaju Bola Tinubu is running, fine, that is good. Restructuring. Okay. And the issue of restructuring, most people in the country, some people in the country have continued to misconstrue the interpretation of what restructuring means.
Because there's so many meanings to it. People are interpreting it. After all, if you remember, Paul, let me just read that. In 2015, the APC came and said change, and Nigerians thought they meant change, which it was not defined. It was after they got into power we suddenly discovered this change is not exactly what we wanted. So it is very important that anybody who is saying restructuring must define it clearly so that Nigerians understand what they are talking about, instead of an ambiguous restructuring that we don't know, and then they will just come and do their own and tell us this is the restructuring we're talking about. So that's why people are skeptical about the restructuring. So we'll be very happy to hear your own definition of what restructuring is about.
Those who have been trying to say that restructuring is not explicitly as clear.
Okay.
They have ulterior motive and they have a hidden agenda. By restructuring is to decentralize power.
Okay.
Decentralize power from the federal government, from Abuja. Abuja is taking so much. Let the state have something to do. And especially most of our northern brothers and sisters who have been kicking against restructuring. Zamfara have gold now. Zamfara have commercial quantity of gold. Let Zamfara people benefit from that gold and pay some of the taxes to the federal government. Not somebody sitting down in Abuja emasculating all the gold that is found in Zamfara. And Zamfara people are impoverished.
Okay.
We need to decentralize power. Like some state can afford to provide electricity
for themselves.
You cannot do that now unless the federal government give you some leeway. And that leeway, there are several bottlenecks, several obstacles implanted by the federal government, by the policies of the federal government. Some people might want to construct a dam. Some state might want to construct a dam. You can't do that now. You have to follow some rigorous process and regulations before you can do that.
Okay.
And at the tail end, you might not even, once you see the regulations, you might not even want to do that.
Okay.
So we need to, if we are not careful, if we continue to allow this country the way this country is, somebody sitting down in Abuja, you bring somebody from Ekiti State, make him a minister of mineral resources, and then you want him to determine what is happening in Borno State, in Yobe,
in Cross River State.
In Cross River State, he has never been in Borno State, and you want him to determine that. Okay. And then every now and then, the governors are running cap in hand to Abuja to gather the meager resources that they get from petrodollars. These are impending crises for Nigeria, okay, and we have stayed so much. Let me just give you an instance.
Okay.
I've been looking at, like if you want to provide this thing, not just word, not just talking, you lay down empirical fact. They have been releasing data, one on indices of democracy the Atlas of Impunity, Global Atlas of Impunity, released a report. Former Minister of Education, Dr. Obi is a member of that listing, and I am Brainman. A lot of global intellectuals and scholars gathered together and Nigeria ranked 24th among the most countries with the highest level of impunity. They just released another report, Global Index of Democracy. Nigeria is not regarded even as electoral democracy. You have 4 stages: close autocracy, electoral autocracy, electoral democracy, liberal democracy. The only liberal democracy in Africa is such as Ghana is a liberal democracy, South Africa is a liberal democracy, Senegal, Nigeria is an electoral autocracy. So when we continue to do all these things in this country and think that the world is a global world.
Okay, Paul. Your answer throws up 2 things that we need to examine, which have been talked about several times before. I will take the first one, and which is that you are talking about autonomy, state governors being powerful and all of that. And the question people ask is, right now, with what the governors, the states are getting, what are they doing with it? What does it mean? If the federal government's okay, let all the monies coming out from anything be given to the states. Let federal government not take anything. The little one you say that the states are getting, the state indigents are suffering. They are groaning. That's why everybody is looking at Abuja. State governors, local government, they receive money. What have they done with it so that from that they can be given more power, more money to move forward? So how do you respond to that when people say the money they're already receiving, they are not managing it well? What is the guarantee that it will manage a bigger resource when they get it?
Look at where the guarantee is going to come from. Most of the governors, if you want, like, we are at liberty to criticize the federal government, to criticize the president, to criticize the National Assembly. Most people who are in the states, if you criticize a governor, they will come after you. They will even bulldoze your house.
Okay.
In most states, like in Zamfara, journalists cannot even practice there. Even civil society cannot operate freely in Zamfara state. In most of the governors are emperors and autocrats. But each time you want to raise an eyebrow about accountability and transparency, they will ask you, is it your money? They are always saying that. If you put your ears on the ground, they're always saying that. Because we are practicing feeding bottle democracy, where if a baby is crying, and then you carry the feeding bottle and put it, he closes his mouth. That is what. So because they are coming to a sharing system where they just share money, nobody can hold them accountable. But if you allocate some resources, you give them some level of autonomy, the citizens will not form the bloc. In fact, there have been an argument and debate that the focus has been so much on the federal government. Let us also focus on the states. Not only focus in terms of administration and policy, but on also who becomes governor, who becomes councillor, who becomes local government chairman,
and commissioner,
and all that also, because the focus is overwhelmingly on the federal government at the national level.
But Paul, you need to clear up this thing you're saying. You mean that if the power is devolved to the states,
yes,
how will the citizens become more powerful to question the governor when they are not even they can't question him now? You need to explain that. Let's get a better understanding.
When you don't labor for the resources that is accruable to you,
okay,
there's tendency to mismanage such resources. But if, like, there are provisions where the states are allowed to handle some of these aspects, we move some of the items that are dominant in the exclusive list to the concurrent list.
Okay.
Citizens of that respective state will be able to hold the government accountable, the state government accountable.
Okay, what you're saying is that the federal government now tells the people, look, we have removed that. It's you and your state governor are now together. Leave President Buhari alone. Go and hold Obaseki.
Go and hold your governor.
Go and hold them. Okay.
Wike.
Yeah.
Go and hold Wike. Go and hold
Emmanuel
in Akwa Ibom. Go and hold
Okowa, who is borrowing money recklessly. I don't know the logic of what you're saying. I don't know. Maybe that will work. But the other angle to that question is this: that you require constitutional amendments for all of this, and that people have blamed the National Assembly, legal intellectuals, and say that since 1998, when this constitution was put together in a hurry by the military, who wanted to leave so that civil democracy can take over, the men get to this National Assembly, and rather than looking at the law that brought them to power to see how they can tinker it and make it right for democracy, they keep running with a military constitution, resulting in what you just said. On an index, Nigeria is rated very, very lowly in terms of democratic governance. How do you think that this incoming National Assembly, they call it 10th Assembly, you think it's possible for the men and women who make that chamber up to look at this document and say, okay, let's put it together in such a way that it can yield to the Nigerian people?
A lot of Nigerians, everything about them is dependent on the state's resources, the national till. To take away that source from them is going to be very difficult. I tell you, a state like Kaduna, a state like this Nasarawa state you see here close to Abuja. Nasarawa state is one of the richest states in Nigeria in terms of natural resources, mineral deposits, and all that. If you give Nasarawa state the opportunity to explore our resources, and the citizens are active enough to hold their leaders accountable, Nasarawa state can be anything, can be Dubai. But because Nasarawa state is always looking up to Abuja at the end of the month to share money, it cannot collect taxes, it cannot explore its natural resources. The peanuts that are given to the state are often shared. Nobody is able to even hold them accountable. So the challenge is that we have to ensure that these resources get to the state. The resources are not getting to the state. The federal government has emasculated all the 36 states in several layers. So until we decentralize, Nigeria will continue to face this crisis.
Okay. We are here on Politics Now. The time is standing on 24 minutes past 3. You're hearing the voice of my friend Paul Obi, a media scholar, as well as a journalist. And we're looking at the issue of setting agenda for the incoming administration that will be sworn in one way or the other on the 29th of May. For now, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been declared the president-elect, and we're looking forward to that government. And of course, there's so much anger in the land, and we're looking at what does the new government need to do to bring down the tension and make Nigerians happy. Nigerians feel like the country is not their own anymore, and there's a lot of people running away. I've been arguing with some groups on WhatsApp that I belong to, people saying people should run away and all of that, and it annoys me because I really do love my country, and I think there's no other country like Nigeria. So that's what we are discussing here today. In a few minutes, we'll be asking you to join us, but for now, I'm still here with Paul Obi. Paul, you did not address the issue. How do we get these men and women to tinker with our constitution to get it to be amenable to the Nigerian people, taking into cognizance our diversity? For now, the constitution seems to make it like there is apartheid. There are some people who are more Nigerian than other Nigerians, and even these legislators themselves complain, but they have never been able to come together on the basis of Nigeria, on consensus, and say, look, this constitution is rigid. This constitution, what do we do with it? Let's tinker with it. Remove some more powers, like you said, to the states and all of that. Why is it? How can we achieve that with this coming 10th Assembly? Since we can say that in the next 2 months, it's not possible for the 9th Assembly to do that.
I would have some level of confidence. If you look at Bola Tinubu's history, if on the 29th he's sworn in, Bola Tinubu history, I think he's a progressive. He's a federalist. He's
actually the first progressive to have won. Okay, Abiola won, but of course he was never sworn in. So we are hoping that at least.
If it's a progressive, but you will not take that hook, line, and sinker, given the antecedents and antics of Nigerian politicians. They were the ones that inserted restructuring in their constitution, their political party constitution.
That is the APC,
and they bluntly refused to implement anything or even go near to the issue. They never wanted to discuss it. So it's not about just maybe having an ideology. It's about your ability to go the whole hog to implement such ideology. I think that's the challenge. But if you have a president who is really sincere, honest, and committed, and knows the stakes, knows that the stakes are high, and that Nigeria is at their need of tinkering with over concentration of power at the center, he's able to build momentum, is able to build bridges across in a liberalized manner, get across to National Assembly members, get across to the state government. The challenge is that it's not just the National Assembly. You're talking about National Assembly. The National Assembly may pass such a bill for restructuring or such a law. The state governors may kill it because the State House of Assembly have been pocketed by the state government.
But I don't think any state is going to go against the fact that they cannot develop their states and make more money.
No. Just example. National Assembly have continued to pass laws that will restructure the constitution and give the state houses of assembly freedom, liberty, put their resources on consolidated revenue, first charge. The governor doesn't have to do anything, sign anything, he goes straight to the legislature. Most of the state houses of assembly, a state like Kwara, Cross River, some of them gang up and ensure that the state house of assembly members kill that bill. What would you say about that? So you cannot rule it out. The governors, the state governors are a big challenge to Nigeria. So we should not just look at the National Assembly. Yes, you need to carry the National Assembly along, but if we have the commitment of the president, the principal officer of the National Assembly, the 10th Assembly that is incoming, and then you have the governor that are going to be sworn in also on 29 May, and some of them, and then you build bridges across, not only with the political class, the traditional rulers, across the country, and see the need that this is what we need to do. A lot of people might buy into it, a lot of people might not. But I think there is also phobia on some certain part of the country that is against restructuring. But restructuring, like in the north, the north they have the landmass, they have the natural resources and mineral deposit, even far more than the south. But I think the backlash has always been coming from the north. That's a challenge. So you need somebody who is able to, like I said, build bridges.
Build bridges across party lines and ideological lines.
Yes. So for Nigeria to achieve that kind of devolution of power, in fact, across the world now, what is in vogue is devolution of. Look at the UK. They have devolved their powers to the regions. Nobody. If you are in Cardiff, you don't care what is happening in
London. It's not your big Glasgow and all of that.
If you are in Glasgow or Edinburgh, you don't care what is happening in London. If you are in Belfast, you don't care what is happening. In fact, the Northern Ireland First Minister will stand point on point with the British Prime Minister.
Okay, but Paul, you know, in answering this question now, you are expressing fears about governors already in what you just said, and these are the same people you are saying we need to give more powers, and you have just said it that you are scared of these governors and their dominant and autocratic approach to governance.
No, there are two issues here.
Okay.
If you devolve powers, we have to get one first. I'm saying we should devolve powers.
Okay.
Your question has to do with the ability, the readiness, the willingness of the National Assembly or the country as a whole to pass that law that would devolve powers and the resources to the state.
Okay.
The first one is, how do we get the lawmakers, the incoming lawmakers, and the president himself to buy in, to key in?
Okay.
So once we are able to get them to key in, that comes first. If that comes first, when the power has been devolved to the state, we now start raising the consciousness of the citizens across the state to hold their governors accountable. Like even the issue of state police. State police. Now, if you want to create a state police in Nigeria, you don't just need to create a blanket kind of state police policy. You need to create a state police that has some intervention, some regulatory framework that the federal government still have to like look into in cases where there are breaches, where there are constitutional breaches or human rights breaches. So these are the aspects. You don't just give we're not saying.
Okay, but no, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm understanding. You know what you have just said, without saying it outright, is that the process of development takes time and it is a gradual process. Do you know that's what he just said? It's one step, at a time. Because when young people begin to shout, or when you are one of their leaders, Paul, there is this thing that in a snap of the finger, you could just get these changes taking place and Nigeria will become an El Dorado.
When they say it takes time, there is a deliberate act to create confusion, delayances, and all that. If you have a country that is committed, you can pass this bill within 2 weeks across boards. Within 2 weeks.
But Paul, you agree that there are always negative people who will not understand, and you need to win them over with time and patience.
For how long?
And consensus.
For 62 years.
No, Paul, look, I don't know if you've seen the video where somebody was looking at a board that was black on one side and he was saying it's black, and the other person was seeing the board from the side where it was white. So there are a lot of people who you need to, over time, to make them understand your position.
I think
that it favors them, actually.
Those kind of analogies are not helpful.
Okay. Tell us how
white is white, black is black. Heaven and earth, and anywhere you go, black is black, white is white. So those kind of analogies that I'm seeing it different, the other person is seeing it from a different position, do not help us. The country has been strangulated and stagnated for the past 63 years running. The country has not worked for most Nigerians. It has worked for a few political elites.
This is an agreement all of us have. You are very correct on that.
And one of the factors responsible for that is that there's too much concentration of power at the center. There's too much concentration of power, of resources at the center that props up, lead to corruption, lead to naked display of impunity and all that. Until we're able to disseminate this power, devolve this power across the state or regions and local government, then we can begin to talk. But for now, it's same old same.
All right, still your favorite station, Citizen FM 93.7 this afternoon, looking at the issue of setting agenda for the incoming administration as to what are those things that have been militating against the development of our country, and we want to move it forward. We don't need to be afraid of Ashiwaju. If we put him in office, we need to tell him what we want from him, because Nigerians are not happy. I don't think if we take a census of happy people now that in 2003 BBC did and said Nigerians are the happiest people, some people say, I don't think now Nigeria ranks up to 150 in the happiness index. I've not checked it recently, but I know definitely we are not in the top 100. Nigerians are unhappy right now. I've been getting some people trying to make calls and join us when we have not opened the phone lines. Okay, you are prompting me to do that early. So please, if you want to call, you can join me. As I have my guest here, Paul Obi, a media scholar and a journalist, joining us to look at this issue, setting agenda for the incoming administration. You can call 0903 222-9797. You can also call 0818-2222-205. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jerry.
Oh, Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. My regard to our guest here.
Okay. Thank you.
What our guest is saying is complete 100% true.
Okay, you agree with him?
Yes, I don't know see how the Jiroro Dam in Niger State, who is supplying power, will get problem. You affect Nasarawa, affect Plateau, affect Kaduna, affect Benue, affect many states because of that national grid. Can't a state produce their own power? Honestly, these state assemblies, they have to work hard to dissolve power. If they try to dissolve this power, I'm telling you, Nigeria still get where they did, because I'm speaking with you now. We are paying NEPA bill this week, but we don't have light. As I'm speaking with you now, we don't have light. So all this you have to dissolve and rearrange this country so that everybody will be happy. Honestly, that's my and another one I want to say. Please, there is one development from River State. It means that up to now, since 1970, this abandoned property is into the River State government hand.
Jerry, we are not discussing all those issues. They are politicking their own in Rivers State. We don't want to get involved in all of that.
That you have to clear me this thing. Honestly, I'm confused about this abandoned property. Up to now, the internal property
Jerry, let me put it like this. It's not everything you hear when politicians begin to talk because they want to deceive the people to get their votes that you should take to account. Sometimes these words just come out. So please, you can discount and answer some of the things you hear. Not every one of them is what you should take to the bank and be having sleepless nights about.
Thank you.
All right, Jerry, thank you so much for joining us. The telephone lines are still open in case you're interested and you want to be a part of the discussion. 0903-222-9797. 0903-222-9797. There's an alternate line, and that is 0818-2222-205. 0818-2222-205. I'm still here with my friend Paul Obi looking at these issues. Paul, Jerry saying he agrees with you. He's paying for darkness. I think he called some time ago to repeat the same thing. And this is what we're saying. You believe that the states, if this power is actually devolved to them, we have enough persons who are capable of developing and making. Don't you think that the fear of some people is that possibly the federal government has used some resources to develop certain things to a certain level in some states, and some states are feeling that they also require that level of investment from the federation or from the federal government before we can say, okay, we are developing powers to states so that they can start off at the same level?
I don't think that is going to work. It's not feasible because most of the National Assembly members that will be coming, most they are new, mostly the new ones and even the old ones, the typical Nigerian politician is so self-centered. We have never gotten to the stage where the country is put first. Is put at the front burner.
How can we do that? You think there's a way we can do that so that everyone, including you, me, every Nigerian, before you take any action, any decision, you put Nigeria first? Is it possible for us to get to that level? How can we do that?
The only way we can do that is to demonetize our politics, our political system.
Okay.
Our political system is highly commercialized and mercantile. Until we do that, before we get the real people, the real leaders who want to lead. If you take away money, the interest, and the paraphernalia of office that is accruable to our political elite, a lot of them will
run away. You think it's possible, because you just threw up an issue now that is just pricking my mind. You think it's possible that as Shiwaju being sworn into office can make sure, and maybe a law or whatever, to ensure that apart from administrative levies, anyone contesting for an office from the political parties doesn't need to pay money. Like we had 100 million that disenfranchised a lot of young persons, 40 million, 20 million. Is it possible? You think just pay administrative fees if you want to be president of Nigeria, if you want to apply to the APC, Labour Party, or PDP? You think such a law, it's possible to put that in place?
Without mincing words, honestly, I do not see Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a game changer that is going to bring any positive, any change from what is already at stake. Asiwaju is part of the deep state. It's part of the Nigerian
Why
state.
is such pessimism, Paul?
No. It's antecedent. I've known you since 2004.
That is correct. Almost 20 years now. We've known this.
Almost 20 years we've known. When we first stepped our foot in school, I can tell to a certain degree about you. There's a proverb in my Boki language that that a good masquerade, you start seeing the dancing step from the house. So if I've looked at Bola Tinubu right from his days from SDP in 1992 and the Abiola movement and up to today, and then I cannot tell about him, then why should I feel that I've gone to school? I said he has no tendency to bring strategic reform to this country.
There are so many people who will disagree with you on that.
What is his record in Lagos? What is the campaign about in Lagos?
People say at least he has a philosophy. they've been building on it since time. All the people who competed with him, nobody has a legacy and a philosophy that is still in existence in Nigeria today. He's the only one who has. That's what the people say. That they are here. We are. You have people like the vice president. You have governors in different states. You have the minister of transport.
On the area
and all those things. Paul. Let's see. This is what people have said. And when you look at it, those things are clear for everyone to see. Who else has such records?
I want to come into agreement with you to a certain degree. That when it comes to recruiting the best hands, I think Tinubu stands out. I don't take credit from people who merit that credit. Tinubu is one of the best person that can groom people and give them the power to explore.
And you think we don't need that now?
But
okay,
Tinubu do not have development agenda in the real sense of it. It's part of the deep state. So I don't see how that is going to. When it comes to like recruiting the best hands, he can do that. But will he allow sustainable, strategic, discrete policy that will change Nigeria to take place with his track record, his antecedents and antics? I do not.
What antecedents are these antecedents you're talking about?
They are there for everybody to see.
No, I don't have them.
You should have them.
But why should I have them? I don't.
You should have them.
You are the one who is saying this.
You should have them. He has the record are there for everybody to see. So I do not see him as somebody who, like I said, I give him credit. He's one of the best political elite who can like, he's not so domineering that he wants to take everything, and like a typical Nigerian politician go for mediocres.
Okay. So they can undermine them and suppress them.
People who are not able to overshadow them or outshine them. But Tinubu is a different spec.
You think that is not a good trait?
I said it's a good trait.
Okay.
But he himself, like in terms of the development that Nigeria needs, the first thing any true leader who wants to change Nigeria is to come out early and cut down on the corruption level. And I do not see Tinubu.
That is what you mean. You believe that in terms of the corruption index, Tinubu does not look like a likely candidate that is going to deliver on that corruption down.
No.
Okay, I hope Asiwaju, your team, you are listening from here. That's exactly the agenda we are setting here. There's this young man here sitting here. He said he doesn't trust you, and we are expecting a shock. We want a good surprise. I spoke with another young man off the mic some days ago, and what he said is that he's not just like you. He said, look, he's not bothered too much about Asiwaju being the president. It's just that he's worried that the people who will surround Asiwaju may be some persons who may want to derail and not get things done in a proper way. And that is exactly what we are doing here on Politics Now, to point out these issues so that in case Asiwaju or his lieutenants are listening, you can write it down and tell him this is what the people think, so you can have an agenda to assuage these fears and let them know that you are bigger than that. So Paul, why do you say he cannot bring down the corruption index? You think he has the retinue of 8 are too many, or he's mired in the same thing that has been
That's what I said, that it's part of the deep state. The part of the
we have a deep state in Nigeria, Paul.
Yes, part of the Nigerian elite who have felt so much power, and nothing has changed. Nothing has shifted in terms of development.
Okay. But he has never been president before for us to actually know exactly what he will do with that power when he has it.
What is Lagos? If you bring a fine technocrat, one who is exposed to development, who is transparent, who knows where the world is heading to, who knows where people are building speed trains. Look at what they brought in Lagos and the humongous budget that was meant for it. They would turn Lagos around, but I don't see that with what has come up in Lagos for almost 20-something years.
But Lagos still stands out in Nigeria, no matter how you criticize. Lagos stands out above other states as far as Nigeria is concerned.
Lagos is not the cleanest state. Its educational ranking cannot be the best. Its maternal mortality level will not be the best in this country. The only way Lagos is topping is that it generates more revenue than any other state. That is the only way. That is the only thing Lagos is bad. Nobody should say how. Lagos is not top in terms of even education, in terms of healthcare, in terms of infrastructure. So what are we talking about? So what are they talking about?
Paul.
Yeah, I stand by that. Yes, bring the indices. Let's go to NBS.
We will get all of that from the NBS to see where Lagos ranks in terms of these developmental indices when you balance them against other states in Nigeria. But Paul, I can assure you, I don't see how many states, which states do you think in these areas you're talking about will rank above Lagos? Even the FCT?
Look at the indices I mentioned.
Yes.
I'm very clear. I said Lagos
maternal mortality.
It cannot be the best. In education, it cannot. Infrastructure, it cannot.
Millennium Development Goals, or what are the SDGs?
All those SDGs. Lagos cannot be the best, number one in Nigeria. It cannot. The only way Lagos is just revenue generation. It's GDP.
Do you know, Paul?
Lagos is like the sixth or seventh largest economy in Africa. For your information.
Do you know, Paul?
Yes.
That if you're surrounded by poverty all around, you cannot be wealthy. If you see what Mexicans do in jumping into the US, with so many states poor and hungry surrounding Lagos, the things you do in Lagos, the next day 1 million people are trooping in from other states and it is absorbed and you can't even see it. You need to understand some of those indices that take effect.
You sure?
No, but see, look, if Nigeria begins to develop now, and you have countries like Cameroon, Niger Republic, Chad, and the Benin Republic not developing, you'll be sure that they're going to suck up those developments, and you may not even see it.
If you allow it.
How do you do it? You can't live in a vacuum.
If you allow it. The Americans are not allowing it. America is still America. Mexico is still.
Who said?
I'm telling you.
All right, you heard the voice of my friend Paul Obi joining me this afternoon to look at in setting agenda for the incoming administration that will be taking off any time from now. And you can join us as we are looking at this issue. He's been talking about devolution of powers, constitutional amendments, and he's made a fiery statement now that he does not see the president-elect as one to reduce the corruption index in Nigeria. I don't know whether you agree or disagree with that. I don't know. I think he agrees, of course, that the president-elect is a good discoverer of talent. Can I use that?
Yes.
Okay, that he knows how to discover talent. But I think that's the first thing we need, because one of the criticisms of President Buhari was that he was putting the wrong pegs, the square pegs in round holes. Don't you think that would be a step forward at least?
President Buhari is in a different world, but we are talking about Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Yes. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is good in headhunting talent.
You've said that before.
Yeah. But that is his own antecedents, his own track records over the years do not tell that this is somebody who is going to fight corruption.
Okay, outside of headhunting knowledgeable people, how else do you think? Because people believe that in putting the wrong persons in positions of power, that actually increases the corruption index.
Then another factor, you said, please come again.
That putting the wrong persons, incompetent persons in positions of power actually increases the corruption index. So bringing competent persons into those places could actually, in a way, reduce the corruption index.
To be honest with you, if not for Tinubu's age, I don't have anything against Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And maybe, I don't know, I'm not a medical doctor, maybe his health status and all that. I don't have anything against him, but he's just part of the system. I can't derail from that. He's just part of the system in such a way that, and the office of the Nigerian president is so powerful. It's one of the most powerful presidential office. In fact, there are research that rank Nigerian presidential system as hyper presidential.
Because of the powers wielded by the president.
Yes, hyper presidential system. Nigerian presidential system is not just mere presidential system, it's hyper. You know something, when they say something is hyper presidential system, there's overwhelming sweeping powers embedded on the constitutional role of the president.
Okay.
So when somebody you need to take somebody who is disciplined, who is competent, who is sincere, who has some level of compassionate, and also physically fit, mentally. He has the intellectual, mental capacity, physical capacity to govern.
Okay.
You can be honest and transparent and intellectually sound, but if you are medically deficient, that is physically deficient, the rigorous nature that comes with the office, with the role of a president, you will not be able to meet up.
Over the years, we've never had a president who is vibrant, and we've seen people like
Obasanjo and Jonathan was, but
I didn't see President Jonathan. I know he was physically fit, but
vested interest, their interest, derailed them. I think Obasanjo was. Obasanjo, you can see his.
How do you think those vested interests that you think emasculate the office of the president? How do we get rid of that? Because if we have that challenge, from what you're saying, it's going to be difficult for us to ever get a president who is going to do what the Nigerian people want. If there's this, like we call it in Nigerian parlance, the cabal that pinch the president down. So much so that President Buhari told us, I'm not aware on several occasions of things that are happening from his office. How do we get that cabal to be decimated so that Nigerians can take over their president and get him to do what? Paul, that's why we're here. That's why I'm asking you this thing. We are talking very openly. How do we destroy this cabal that hold our presidents down and prevent them to do what Nigerians want?
Yes, it's a very tall order. One, for you to have such a kind of person, you need somebody who is disciplined, who is independently minded also, to have, who is coming, the general belief of a Nigerian politician is to get to power and amass wealth, expand their estates. That's why the country has not worked for the people, the citizens. Nigeria is not run as a citizen-centric nation. It's run for political elites, for political goons, cabals. The country has not worked for people. Let me tell you, with the level of my exposure and my experiences and travel and everything, when I move sometimes and see the level of poverty that people go on with in Nigeria, sometimes I shed tears. You won't and the most dangerous aspect of it is that we are not supposed to be that poor. I don't think outside China, America, in terms of resources.
Okay.
In terms of resources, any other country can compete with Nigeria. I don't even see Brazil, even Russia. When I mean resources, in terms of some countries have the natural and mineral resources, but the citizens are not active vibrant enough to utilize those resources.
Okay.
In Nigerian case, we are blessed with those things. That's why I mentioned China. You have a vast country, citizens vibrant,
very
smart, intellectuals. Same with America. I don't even see Russia. If you put Russia and Nigeria on the same footing, I don't even India. Yes, India, maybe because of population, they are smart also and all that. Maybe they can surpass Nigeria, but very few countries. But in our own case, we are blessed double with this thing, and then we cannot use it. Look at our elections. We criminalize everything. You set a law, you move the goalposts without letting people you've moved the goalposts. Look at what the whole world, they're laughing at us, tagging us. Look at the Austrian newspaper describing our president-elect. Look at what
it is what we say here that they lived to put their own headlines.
It's not.
It is true. It is from Nigerian media that they get what they say. They are not here. If we say our elections were good, what Austria has no power but to say it was. It's because we are saying it was not good. That's why they read it was not.
I'm sitting down in Abuja.
Yes.
I know what is happening in California. I know what is happening in Florida.
That is an African development problem. That it's easier for you to know what is going on in New York right now than what is going on in Lafayette here.
I know what is happening in Lafayette. If I want to know, I want to know. So the world is a global village. So don't say it's Nigerian journalists or Nigerian media that is reporting it. And they came here. They brought the EU observers were here.
Okay.
They have missions. The Austrian embassy is here. They send their people out.
Okay. All right. It's politics now. Citizen FM 93.7, and I can see my producer is waving to me already. That is about time for us to round out here in the studio. Paul, I want to thank you so much for joining me this afternoon to look at these issues. But we are out of time. Okay, yes, just take 30 seconds, please.
Yeah, for the incoming administration, whichever level it ends, the first thing is to unite the country, peace, security, and the economy. These are clear agenda that the incoming administration must look at.
Okay.
And we must devolve power. If we don't devolve power,
okay. All right. The
consequence will be severe.
The voice of Paul Obi, a media scholar and the journalist, joining me this afternoon to look at the issue of setting agenda for the incoming administration, hopefully, of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And he has said it here. He said the political class in Nigeria, they would rather work for the interest of the political class rather than the interest of the Nigerian people. So Asiwaju, that's number one. You must work for the interest of Nigerian people, not those your political friends. You say they help me to win, let me settle them first. No, it is Nigerian people that wants to be settled. And another person told me that he's not worried about you, he's okay with you, but the people surrounding you, we don't want to hear, I am not aware, when you become the president. So these are part of the agenda we are setting. So those who know Asiwaju, in case he's not listening, send this message to him from Citizens FM as to what the people are saying as we get ready for him to mount the saddle of power in the next few weeks. This is about where we put the curtains on the show for today. Thank you so much, Paul Obi, for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, and of course, my producer, Fred Nice. My name is Ernest. Tomorrow is another time we'll be seeing you. Do have yourself a wonderful afternoon.